Hello, wonderful moss flutists. My name is Veronica Mascaro, and I'm going to share some information with you today about starting a new musical project. And I thought it would be appropriate to use your audition material for ensembles for next year. So if you notice, I'm in my kitchen, and the reason that I am is because I often think about starting a new musical project kind of like cooking. I can use anything in cooking as kind of an analogy for playing music, preparing music. I think it has some really great parallels. So today we're going to talk a little bit about, start out talking with a little bit about the ingredients that we use when we start a musical project. So in this particular case, having a pencil, quite handy. Obviously your flute, which I have mine right here. I have a metronome and tuner that I use, and I know you guys have metronomes and tuners that you would have purchased when you first started the instrument. I use my phone. It's kind of convenient. I always have it with me, and I use tonal energy because I like all of the different options on tonal energy. Obviously, I have a music stand here, which is a little bit harder for you to see because of the camera angle, and our music. So, you know, when you start to cook or you start to bake something, probably the first thing you're going to do is go to the supermarket, and you'll take your recipe with you so that you know all of the ingredients that you need to get. In music, when I first start a project, I do my score preparation. What score preparation is using your pencil and just checking out the music, writing the key signature at the top. If you have a tempo or some sort of stylistic marking, words at the top, which you don't in this particular case, I usually will circle those or define them if I need to have them defined. Perhaps if there are accidentals, as they are in this particular piece of music in measure 14 and also measure 17, I would make note about that. I might even go in and highlight some dynamic contrast, breath marks just on the onset of checking out this music. It's kind of the first part of it. You know, if you're cooking something, obviously you would want to make sure that you have all the right pots and pans or baking tools that you would need. And that's kind of what we're doing here. So this particular piece of music, because it's being used for an audition, and this year something a little bit different because you're using it in a video format, you want to make sure that you can kind of think about that as you're playing. You do not want to make your first and only video the one that you submit. Videotape yourself and during the process itself. Hear what your devices sound like. Find a great place in your house to also do your videotaping. Some of the auditions that I was supposed to judge this spring have been canceled. There's one that they're going to give the students an option of doing either in person, not in person, but online, real-time, live stream performances, or they can submit videotapes. I've already had a couple of students who have submitted their videotapes to me, and unfortunately they weren't very good quality. One of the videotapes, the family dog was barking through most of the video, and in another one there's a lawnmower going through most of the video, so it's really difficult to kind of hear what the player is doing. So fortunately I had the option of sending the videotapes back and making suggestions that they probably should record again. So take special consideration into the devices, the quality of the devices, and where it is that you're videotaping in your house. You might want to warn your family that you're going to be doing some videotaping so everybody is kind of quiet while you're doing it. So back to this piece of music. We have no composer and we have no tempo. So what you need to do is kind of make some discoveries. I usually use 5 basic words when I start a piece of music that kind of help me to kind of immerse myself into this. Rhythm, pitch, dynamics, feelings, and communication. That's just kind of surface. But I think that they're important words, most especially this year because of the fact that you're using videotape. Utilizing our metronome, what I'm going to do with this particular work is, and I've already done some of the work, so I'm going to show you a finished product first. I've made some discoveries with this that I believe that it's possible it could be more of a moderato tempo, between 100 and 112, I think is suitable for this particular work. There's no title on it, so with some of my students, we've been kind of brainstorming, what would you call this if you were to give it a title? And for me, it's kind of march-like. It has a maestoso sort of nature to it, kind of majestic. So I'm going to play it through from the very beginning, putting dynamics in, articulations. The breath marks that I'm going to be using are breath marks that I would use with more of a beginner. There are some breath marks that you can eliminate, and I can talk about that as we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I did was I showed you more of a finished product for more of a beginner or intermediate, perhaps a little bit fast for a beginner student. Certainly you can modify the tempo. So kind of starting from the top, as far as what's super important and what should be brought across in your video. From a rhythmic standpoint, rhythms are super easy to hear. So you might want to get into this music, write some tempos down, or write some counting down for yourself. Breath marks can help in shaping the phrases, yes, showing the dynamics most definitely, and also helping with some of the syncopation. So right off the top from the very beginning, I'm not a big fan of taking bar-line breath marks, but you have a couple of possibilities here. That is a possibility. I'm not a huge fan of that particular breath mark, even though I did put it in the video example. I believe that it should be taken after the high C natural. For more advanced students, probably between measures 4 and 5. Helps to shape the phrases. For more advanced students, for my more advanced students, I would prefer that they take first 4 measures and then take a breath. So obviously your breath would be between 4 and 5. That is the end of the phrase. It's also at the end of a decrescendo, so it makes some sense, bigger brush stroke in the phrase. Next breath mark should be, I believe, on the dotted note in measure 6, right on beat 4. I'll be starting from 5. End of the phrase, take a breath. So I took a breath on the dot in measure 6, that would be beat 4. Staccato on the pickup to measure 7. I like the breath mark in measure 8, at the end of measure 8, between 8 and 9, because it really helps to accentuate the accents. Obviously, breath mark on the rest. Again, end of the phrase, end of the measure, at the bottom of the dynamic, the decrescendo. Pretty good spot. This is where breath marks in the syncopated lines on dots, helping with staccatos as well in measure 16, 13 and 16, 13, 14 and 15, 16, you have some syncopated lines. So this is how I usually define these. I think that helps to really accentuate the syncopated note, which is the F natural tie. Again, very leggero, very lifted to help with the syncopation. And then a pickup to 17. So you want to really accent that downbeat of 1. I like taking a breath on the last note of the tie in 18. Again, helps with the syncopation. I'll start pick up to measure 17. I'm a firm believer in taking breath marks or lifts on dotted notes. Certainly don't have to take every single one of them. We have quite a few dotted 8th notes to 16th notes in this last area, the more advanced area. Typically, when you have dotted notes, the note that follows the dotted notes, I'm not talking staccatos, I'm talking about dotted rhythms now. The dotted note is typically the end of a phrase or a subphrase, and then the note that follows is typically the pickup. So it's always a good idea to lift as you go into a pickup. So I'll start back at 18. So that's a kind of a tasteful way of playing the ending. I like the rallentando at the end. I think it helps to really, really shape, also helps you to crescendo as well. Similar to baking or cooking, you always want to have tasteful ingredients. You don't want to use anything that might be rancid or expired, or maybe if you're using fruits or vegetables, anything that has started to go bad. So in this particular case, tasteful ingredients would be good, thoughtful breath marks that really help to enhance the phrases, help to enhance the crescendos and the decrescendos, and also helps to enhance any of the rhythmic content. In closing, other things to consider would be the type of vibrato that you're using. I'm using a much more shimmery vibrato in this because my thought process is, as I assess this, is kind of like a march. And I'm not a big fan of measured or metered vibrato because it sometimes has a tendency of causing some intonational problems and also tempo problems as well. So I feel that a really nice shimmery vibrato, a real thin or shallow shimmery vibrato really enhances what it is that you're being asked to play in this. So in closing, have a good time kind of exploring this sort of music. If you're just doing the first half of it, which is great, what I would suggest is make sure your rhythm and your tempo is right on the money. Obviously, the right notes are expected. Do a little bit of experimentation with your vibrato. I think of vibrato as being kind of like an artist's palette. You know, on the artist's palette, you have the primary colors. You take those colors and you mix them together for some interesting and different hues. And that's how I usually try to come up with some vibrato content. If you're playing the entire work on the flow of it. You know, make sure that you can sing it to yourself. I teach in 4 different ISDs, so I'm contending with right now with a lot of different audition material. And sometimes when I'm falling asleep, I sometimes hear these pieces in my inner ear. And so I come up with some different sort of ideas in these as I'm collaborating through with my wonderful students. So enjoy your time, stay happy and stay healthy, and keep on fluting.